Hello, Highland Park High School. This is Dr. Morrison. I'm one of the post-secondary counselors here at Highland Park. Hopefully my face is familiar to some of you by now, either through our evening presentations or the College Planning 101 we did a couple of weeks ago on researching colleges. This is the second in our video series called College Planning 101, and it's basically an attempt to give you some of the different types of information you might need as you're tackling the college search and application process. Today, we are going to focus a little bit on admissions plans and decisions. So particularly admissions plans as you get ready for application filing come early fall of next year. We want to talk about the different ways that you might go about applying to the schools that you are interested in. So let me go ahead and pull up a copy of my presentation. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today are admissions plans and decisions. And when we talk about admissions plans and decisions, you're going to find a number of different kind of types of admissions plans. So when you go to fill out the application, the different selections you're going to make as far as how you want to apply to the school. There are early plans, and those are early action and decision plans, regular decision plans, and rolling admissions plans. And we'll talk about each of these. It's important for you to understand each of these types of plans and to know what your colleges offer so you can kind of strategize yourself and give yourself the best chance for admissions at the different schools you might be interested in based on their plans and what they offer. Okay, so first off, we're going to talk about the different types of early plans. The first one we're going to talk about is early action. So early action is kind of a priority deadline plan, usually somewhere around November 1st, where you apply early, you find out early whether or not you get in, usually sometime around mid-December to early January, but you still have until May 1st of your senior year to decide about whether or not you want to attend that school. May 1st is called the National Candidate Reply Date, and all schools will hold their offers of admission and scholarship and financial aid until that date under an early action plan. So you apply early, you find out early whether or not you get in, and you have until May 1st to decide. These early action plans are often used as part of demonstrated interest. So you demonstrating interest in the school. So I applied by November 1st, even though I really didn't have to, demonstrates interest. When you get that early response then from a school, like I said, usually around mid-December to maybe early January, you could get one of three decisions. That could be admitted, I got in, denied, I didn't get in, or deferred. And that means I'm deferred until the regular decision deadline and might find out in like February, March, April, something like that, in spring, basically, of my senior year. Sometimes that would require submitting further grades or recommendations or whatever it might be. So it's advisable whenever a school has an early action plan that you hit that early action deadline. Like I said, a lot of times it's a demonstrated interest thing, but then it also tends to be something that gives you equal consideration for different types of majors that might be more selective, or it's a scholarship or financial aid priority deadline as well. So whenever a school has early action, you want to hit that early action deadline. The next type of early plan is the early decision plan. And the difference between early action and early decision is that early decision is binding. So it's the same kind of idea with early action in that you're going to apply early and you're going to find out early whether or not you've been admitted or not. But if you are admitted, you have to go. So you are bound to that school. Most schools do not offer ED plans. Early action is very common, very popular. Early decision is not. It tends to be the more selective private schools. The deadlines tend to be the same, somewhere around November 1st. And some schools do offer 2 rounds of early decision. So they'll have an early decision 1, let's say in November 1, and an early decision 2 that usually is the same deadline as the school's regular decision deadline, let's say in January or February. The advantage to early decision is that it does tend to help in admissions. So some schools are literally easier to get into in early decision, meaning that the average ACT or SAT and the average GPA in early decision is slightly lower for admitted students than it is in regular decision. Either way, it's always easier in the fact that it tends to be less selective. So, for example, Northwestern University that has an early decision program, they might get 15% of their applications and admit half the class. And then they'll get the other 85% of their applications and admit the other half of the class. So the admission rate in early decision might be 15%, and the admission rate in regular decision might be 5%. So even if the average test scores and the GPA are the same in early decision versus regular decision, it's just less selective because it is a smaller applicant pool. So that's the main positive of applying early decision. The negatives revolving around early decision have to do with finances. So when you apply early decision, and if you are admitted, you will get a financial aid package that describes to you exactly what kind of money you can expect from the school. So you'll know exactly what that particular school is going to cost. What you won't know, however, is what other schools on your list might have costed. So like you won't have the opportunity to compare and contrast financial aid packages, scholarship offers, and so on and so forth amongst all of your schools, because you've put your eggs in this one school's basket with the early decision. Okay. If you cannot afford an early decision school, if you are admitted and it's just not going to be affordable based on the financial package they give you, that is your one out. So that is your out of that commitment. So if you're like, I can't do this, this just isn't affordable, that is your out of early decision. There is one other early plan that is kind of a hybrid of these two plans, and it's called restrictive early action. This is at a very few of the most highly selective schools like Stanford. And it basically combines the best of both. So it is early action in that it is non-binding. It's early decision in that you're only allowed to apply to one, and therefore it gives you those admission advantages of an early decision to school. So restrictive early action, I apply early, just like early action in early decision schools. But because it's restrictive early action, I don't have to commit. I still am able to kind of see the other offers from the other schools, see where I get in, see financial offers, and so on and so forth. And I still have until May 1st. But like I said, the caveat to that is I can only apply to one school, restrictive early action or early decision. Okay. Again, if a school has an early action program, you definitely want to meet that deadline. It shows interest, gives you priority consideration for everybody. Many schools have multiple different plans, or you will be applying to multiple schools that have different plans. So you want to strategize with that about how you might go about applying. So you might have 8 different schools, and some of them have early action, some have early decision, some have just regular decision, and so on and so forth. So you kind of want to think about that and work with your post-secondary counselor about how you might want to tackle all of those different deadlines. Regular plan. So what often happens is all schools kind of have a regular decision plan, and it's just a matter of what other things they have. So if a school has like an early action and a regular decision, like I said, I would encourage you to apply early action. If the school has just has early decision and regular decision, if you're not applying early decision, you can put that school on the back burner for application completion simply because you will have more time, because a regular decision deadline usually is around January or February. So like I said, you're going to work on like kind of what your list of schools is going to look like, get a handle on all the different deadlines and all the different admissions plans, and then strategize about how and when to complete these different applications. The last type of admission plan you'll find is rolling admission, and this is a school that just admits as it goes along. So there's kind of no rush. Again, something like this, it's best not to wait till the last minute to do that. But that's a kind of school that you say, if I can just get something out in October or November, I'm probably pretty good. These do tend to be the less selective schools, and their final admission deadline might be, April or May or even June of senior year. So you have a lot of different time, or you have a lot of time to complete the applications for those schools. These are some screenshots from Maya. So hopefully most of you are familiar with Maya by now, our online kind of post-secondary counseling site. If you look up schools in Maya under the university search section, you can find that school's homepage. And then if you click on admissions, you're going to get this information. So you can see down here in the box, it's going to give you the different admission plans for the school. So for this school here, I'd see like, okay, they have early action and they have regular admission. Because they have an early action plan, I'm going to make sure to apply by that November 1 deadline. I'd look at my next school and I would see, okay, this school has regular admission and early decision. Well, I'm not planning on applying early decision to this school, so I'm just going to make sure to get my application in by the regular admission deadline of January 1st. And then the third school we'll look at, you can see they got a little bit of everything. They have some early action, they have some early decision, and then they have regular admission. Again, I'm probably not ever thinking about regular admission at the school because worst case, because they have an early action deadline, I'm going to want to meet that early action deadline. And then I may or may not want to do one of those early decision plans if this is one of my top choice schools. Okay, so just kind of some final thoughts on this. Like, you want to structure your application completion and submission by the various deadlines of the schools you're applying to. Okay. You might be in a situation where all your schools have early action and you're just getting them all up by November 1 and done. And in that case, you're going to want to make sure to take advantage of your summer to really start working on applications and essays and so on and so forth. You might also have a mix of deadlines where you have some early action or some priority deadlines, and then you have an early decision school, or you don't, and then you have some regular decision and so on and so forth. So like I said, it's completely possible you could have 8 schools and you're like, okay, I'm doing these 4 because they have early action. I'm going to do these 4 first. I'm worrying about those applications first. Then I'm applying to a couple of California schools, and the California schools have a November 1 and November 30 priority deadline for out-of-state kids, so I'm going to tackle those. And then I've got a couple regular decision schools that I can wait to do as my last couple. So I'm going to break up my applications and tackle each of them based on what their kind of different deadlines are and the different admissions plans I'm going to use. So then once this is all done and your application process is done, you'll start to get some different types of admission decisions. And we'll talk about this a little more in the fall, but just really quickly, admits, obviously good. I get in, yay, I'm happy. I have that as an option. Alternate admissions or spring admissions. Alternate admissions could mean one of two things. That could mean you were admitted, but maybe you were admitted to an alternate major. So you had like a first or second choice major and you didn't get in your first choice major, but you got in your second choice major. It could also mean that you've been admitted to an alternate campus at the school. There are a number of schools that have satellite campuses. A good example of this would be like Penn State University. So Penn State University routinely, if you're not admissible to the main campus at University Park, will offer you admission to one of their satellite campuses. Your other option would be a spring admit, and this is becoming more and more common. Some schools, like Maryland is a common one with this, Tulane does this, University of North Carolina, some places like that, they will offer you a spring admission. So instead of starting your freshman year in the fall on their campus, you will do something else during the fall and you will come to campus in the spring. Now, what you do in the fall depends on the school. Some offer study abroad opportunities. Some tell you could stay at home and go to community college. It's up to you. You can kind of do what you want. But if you're really interested in attending that school, some students will consider the spring admit plan. You just have to figure out exactly what that means. Deny, sorry, you can't come here. Deferred and waitlisted. So a lot of times these terms get mixed up. When you are deferred, it means that you are still under consideration. So what often happens in an early action or early decision situation is the school gets your application and they're not sure. They're not ready to admit you yet, but they also don't want to deny you yet because they think you're a competitive applicant. So they defer you to the regular decision process, which means instead of getting a decision in December, you might not get your decision until March or whatever it might be. A lot of times they're going to ask for first semester grades from senior year to see how you're doing, maybe an additional recommendation or something like that. Waitlisted is completely different. Waitlisted means that the admissions process has ended and you've been placed on a wait list. That means they've already given out all their admissions, but they're putting together a wait list so that if they don't have enough students who commit to the school, they will go to their wait list in order to choose some students to help fill the rest of the class. So depends on the school. Some schools offer a lot of wait list spots, some very few. Some schools regularly go to their wait list, some never go. So it really just kind of depends on the school. Remember that with the exception of ED1 or ED2, with any of these kind of decisions, with our admit or spring admit, or if you got deferred and admitted, you always have until May 1st to make a final decision about where you're going. So thank you very much for joining us here for this talk on kind of admissions plans and decisions. A reminder to juniors that the post-secondary counselors are currently taking appointments, post-secondary planning appointments through the end of the school year. If you haven't had one, you should sign up now. You can find out who your post-secondary counselor is on mylearning.com on your homepage, and you schedule your appointment through the Highland Park High School post-secondary website by finding your post-secondary counselor's name, clicking on the profile page, and you can make an appointment there. Thanks, as always, for joining us, and you all have a wonderful rest of your junior year.